Hey, I'm Tim and welcome to Tim Saying, a podcast inspiring you to grow, develop and thrive through life's challenges. Today, the title of this episode is How to Stay Strong When Life Gets Hard. We know that life isn't easy, and when challenges hit, it can feel like the world is crumbling around you. So in this episode, we're diving into resilience, not just what it is, but how to build it. We'll talk about why tough times feel so overwhelming. And of course, we'll look at what the research says about it, what science says about it, the science behind hopelessness, and how we can reframe our struggles to come out stronger on the other side. In this episode, you'll get practical strategies, personal stories, and some actionable steps in order for you to keep moving forward, even when it feels impossible sometimes. I know we're talking about something that's very real for many people. How to stay strong when life just feels unbearable, when it feels like you can't wake up another day and you can't keep going. Another day, another week, another month, doing what you're doing. Maybe you're stuck in a really difficult situation, whether it's financially, relationally, or maybe in your career, maybe in your friendship groups. We've all had moments where it feels like there's no way out. Things will never get better. But I want to tell you the truth. Resilience isn't about avoiding hardship. It's about learning how to push through, how to thrive, and how to find strength when you're right in the middle of that mess. How to find strength in the process. I remember a time in my life when I felt stuck. No matter what I did, nothing was changing. I felt hopeless. I'd lost complete control of where I want to go and what I want to do, what I want to build. It felt like, I lost control of my own story. And I'm sure many of us, if you're listening to this, you have felt times like that. It's been difficult, I know. But looking back, I realized that season of my life was shaping me. It was teaching me on how to endure, how to adapt, and just how to find meaning in those little things or big things. How to find meaning even when I was struggling, even when I was faced with the roadblock, when I was faced with a giant wall in front of me. And that's what I want to help you do today. First, I think let's unpack, why do hard times feel so overwhelming? Why can't it just be just a hard time, and not feel anything about it and just keep going? Just like, oh, we will pass. Oh, well. But why do hard times actually feel so overwhelming? And this is what research says, right? When life gets tough, our brains go into survival mode. I'm sure if you have studied or read anything about psychology and human behavior and how our brain responds, there's this term in science called fight or flight response. Stress triggers our fight or flight response. It makes us feel anxious, it makes us feel panicked, and sometimes it can even really make us feel frozen. When you're in that moment and you're just stuck. You can't do anything, you can't move, you can't see what's going to happen next. We go into this fight or flight response, whether there's financial struggles, relationship issues, friendship issues, or just personal failures, mistakes that we make, and we feel like, oh, I'm a complete failure. Our brain starts to translate them as threats that we can't escape. If we feel imprisoned, we feel so restricted on what we see and what we can do. And this is called learned helplessness. Psychologist Martin Seligman's research on learned helplessness, it shows that when people experience multiple repeated failures and hardships, those people are like time after time, it's like they never come out of a difficult time. Maybe we've had that people in our lives, or maybe it is you listening today and you're like, I feel like I'm just getting knocked down time after time. I come out one thing and then there's another one. I come out of this thing and then there's a new hardship. There's a new challenge. And in Seligman's research, he found that people who experience that multiple times, repeatedly, those people start believing nothing they do will ever make a difference. This is why people feel stuck. This is why people feel hopeless or like there's no way out. But here's the good news today. Just like how we can learn helplessness, we can also unlearn it. Yeah? We can unlearn some stuff today. We can undo and choose not to learn something that you have learned in the past. Something that you've been programmed in. Maybe since childhood, you've been told you're this or you're that. You're never going to be good enough. Or when you're told that you're just going to be stuck forever and you're not going to achieve anything. Let's unlearn those things today. We can rewire our mindset to see challenges as temporary, not permanent. And there are times that it feels like it's the end of the world. And why do we feel like that? When we feel hopeless, we assume that our emotions reflect reality. We say things like, if I feel stuck, it must mean I'm stuck. But emotions are temporary. They're not the truth. At times, we go into tunnel vision. Hard times make it really hard to see beyond the present moment. Your current reality forces us to go into tunnel vision. We forget that pain is temporary and that things do change and that things can change and that things will change. And for some, there's lack of control. We feel like we've lost control. And when you feel like that, it's easy to spiral into despair. It's easy to jump in this negative spiral cycle. And it's going down and down and down until you hit rock bottom. But during those times, we can really activate and exercise resilience. And it's about shifting our focus to what we can control. So when you're in a dark place, ask yourself this question. Is this thought a fact or just my feeling in this moment? Okay, I'll say that again. When you hit rock bottom, ask yourself this question. Is this thought that I'm thinking about, is it a fact? Or is it just my feeling in this moment? Emotions are real, I know. I don't want us to disregard emotions. I think we created to have emotions and feelings, and that's okay. But they don't always tell the whole story. Emotions shouldn't decide what the outcome will be. Now we've understood a little bit about why it feels like the end of the world, why we feel hopeless. Let's look at some pillars on how to stay strong during those times. Number one, acceptance and self-compassion. That's point number one, acceptance and self-compassion. Strength, it starts with accepting reality. Again, I said it earlier, not disregarding it, not ignoring it, but acknowledging it and accepting it. Not in a passive way, but in a way that frees you and allows you to move forward. Using all of your energy and fighting what you can't control, it only leads to frustration, it only leads to disappointment. But embracing it opens the door to resilience. For example, I used to try so hard to convince people of my beliefs. I used to try so hard and put so much effort in trying to change people's minds, the way they think. And I thought, if I just said the right thing, I could make them understand, I could make them believe. But the real breakthrough came when I realized that my peace didn't come from controlling others. My peace on the inside didn't come from people's actions or their thoughts. It came from accepting what I couldn't change. It came from knowing who I am, my worth, my value, and then started focusing on what I could control and what I could change. There's a great book that I would recommend and is highly relevant to this, and it's called The Courage to Be Disliked by Kishimi and Koga. And this book teaches how self-acceptance, it can really lead to real freedom. I'll give you an example, right? Let's say I'm in a coffee shop meeting with somebody and we both have really, really hot coffee. Okay, and we sit down, and during the middle of a conversation, if this person I'm talking to decides for no reason at all to pour all of that hot coffee, throw it all at me, throw it all at my face, imagine how I would feel, right? Obviously, it'll burn, and I'll probably jump. I'll be shocked. I'll be surprised. I'll be like, what? But even in that moment, I can choose how to respond. Even in that really awful, embarrassing, painful moment, I can choose how to perceive that. Do I choose to fight back? Maybe. Fight or flight. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what I'll do. I've never been in that situation, but I'm just using this as an example. Would I maybe pick up a chair and throw it at him? Maybe. I don't know. Or I could just choose to maybe forgive and walk away. It's like, let's set another date or not. Because I'm not accepting that. I'm not going to be treated like that. That's a perfect example of accepting what you can and accepting what you can't control. Number 2, on how to stay strong, is focusing on small action. When life feels overwhelming, even the smallest steps, they matter. I talk about small wins in this podcast a lot, and small wins create momentum, and I love momentum, and I also hate losing momentum. But momentum builds strength. So ask yourself this question: what's one thing I can do today to move forward? Maybe it's as simple as making your bed, or maybe as simple as sending that one email that you've been procrastinating, or maybe going outside for a walk for 5 minutes. Maybe you're trying to get really fit and you're trying to maybe lose weight or just be healthy. Hey, go out for a walk for 5 minutes. That's it, and then come back. These small micro actions, they build resilience over time, and this is proven time after time. There was a time in my life when I was just drowning in so much pressure and stress, and I had so much in my mind because I'm a thinker. I'm a thinker and I think ahead. I'm a future thinker. I like to think of what's going to happen in next year, next few years. I don't just think in the moment. And then at that moment, I was like, okay, this is really unhealthy. It's good to be thinking about future, preparing for the future. But there are times that it can really consume you. It can really eat you alive. So I told myself at that moment, I said, let me just do one thing. Let me just focus on one thing. And that one thing turned into 2 and then 3. And before I knew it, I was moving forward again. Number 3, it's important to build a support system. Build a support system if you want to stay strong when life gets hard. Resilience isn't just about inner strength. It's also actually about knowing when to lean on others. Because I strongly and firmly believe that we ought to do life with other people. We can't isolate ourselves. Successful people, people who are thriving in life, people who have shown real strength after strength, there has been people around them in each journey. Some people will stay with you for one journey. Some people will stay with you for a long time. There'll be people that'll be coming and going. But the point is, you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to do life alone. You don't have to face whatever you're facing alone. And I know when COVID-19 happened, it disrupted support system. It disrupted friendships and family relationships. However, it also became a real tool on allowing people to reflect and realize who their support system is and the lack of support system that they had. And this is backed by research that studies show that strong social connections, they improve resilience and overall your mental health. People who feel supported, they handle stress much better and they recover much better from hardships. They recover quicker when they have strong social connections. So, just on this point, I want to ask you, can you name 3 people that you can turn to for support? Can you name 3? And if you can, why don't you reach out to one today? Drop him a WhatsApp or a DM and just say, hey, just wanted to check in. It can be the first step forward towards stronger connection. Okay, maybe you're listening to this and you want to say to me, okay, Tim, I don't really have 3 people. And I want to say to you, I hear that, but you can change that today. Let me give you some tips on how to build meaningful connections. First one, just be honest. Be honest. Open up about what you're going through to that person that you feel like you can trust a little bit. Don't open up your whole life story. Don't share everything and anything, but open up about something very small, because vulnerability builds real relationships. And then next, you need to stay consistent. Make time for regular check-ins. Maybe that's weekly, maybe that's monthly, but make it consistent. Whether it's a phone call, a coffee, or just a simple message or a video. This is something that I do quite often. Probably don't do it enough now, but I need to really work on it more. That sometimes I'll just randomly call my friends or people that I want to build relationship with. Sometimes I would just randomly send them a video or a voice note. Or there's been times I'm like, you know what, I really want to test our friendship. I'll just turn up at their door, knock, and go straight to their kitchen and raid their cupboards for food. How else can we build meaningful connections? Find your people. Join a group. Volunteer somewhere, whether it's a faith community, a mentorship program, or like a hobby-based club of football, rugby, chess even. Find your people. And lastly, seek professional help. If you've tried all these 3 things and nothing is working, hey, why not seek professional help? Therapy and coaching, they aren't just for crisis. They're not just for emergency mode when things just go completely downhill. Therapy and coaching, they're for growth. So I want to ask you to write down those 3 people or 3 groups or 3 things that you're going to try and do this week or this month in order to build strong or stronger social connections. Hey, I want to share this encouraging Bible verse. It says in Psalm 34:18, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in the spirit." That verse reminds us that you are not alone. Even in your lowest moments, you are seen, you are loved, and you are more than capable of getting through this one step at a time. But you need to trust the Lord. To everyone listening, I want to tell you that you are stronger than you think. Pain is real, but so is healing. Struggle is part of life, but so is growth. Can you see how I've just changed the perspective slightly? In the hopes that I can just provoke some thoughts and trigger some thoughts on my listeners today. Whatever you're facing, no matter how difficult it may seem, know that this moment, it doesn't define your future. Okay? This is temporary. It's not permanent. So after listening to this podcast, I'd love to celebrate your wins with you. DM me or share your story on social media at Tim Saying. How have you stayed strong through those difficult, hard times? I'd love to hear from you. Next week, we are talking about breaking free from comparison, the hidden struggle that keeps so many of us stuck. You won't want to miss that one. See you in the next episode.